Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Andrew Missick. I'm running to represent as a state legislature, HD 18, which is Liberty, San Jacinto, East Montgomery County, and Hardin counties. I'm running against the incumbent, Ernest Bales. What I want to talk about in this video is the defeat of Ernest Bales. Right now, it's going to be very difficult for Ernest Bales to be reelected. And in fact, I don't think he should even have run. He served 4 terms in office. That's 8 years. And a lot of people feel it's time for a change. Also, Ernest Bales is striking out with 3 strikes. This is reflecting the sentiment of people who are politically engaged and the voters here in this House district. Strike 1, Ernest Bales voted to impeach Ken Paxton, which, however you look at it, was a fiasco. It's a fiasco. Was that the best expense of our public funds, our money? It was executed poorly, it was absurd, and it failed. The fact of the matter is that Ken Paxton is popular with Republican voters, and it seems like they're trying to punish him for going against the establishment. So strike 1 is Ernest Bales attempting to impeach Ken Paxton. Why did he do it? I believe because Ken Paxton has been very effective as Attorney General, pushing back against the disastrous and destructive policies of the Biden administration. And Joe Biden, or his handlers, wanted Ken Paxton taken out of the action. So he was for a few months pending the impeachment trial, which he overcame. Thank God. So number 1, strike 1, the impeachment of Ken Paxton. Strike 2, Colony Ridge. Actually, this should be strike 1 because Ernest Bales supported legislation to help create and empower and protect and expand Colony Ridge. He bestowed certain favors on the Harris brothers, who are ravishing. They are ravishing Liberty County. And this is going to affect the entire House district. And Ernest Bales is on board with what they're doing. He can claim otherwise right now. And Governor Abbott needs to be doing more to hold Colony Ridge responsible and liable for the destruction that they're waging on this House district. And they had this big dog and pony show. Governor Abbott, he punted to the Texas state legislators to deal with this issue. And Michael Berry correctly said that the ball is actually in Governor Abbott's court, that he has the administrative powers to clean up the mess that Colony Ridge has created, or at least force the Harris brothers, that's John and Trey Harris, to clean up the mess that they've made. So this has become a national scandal where Ernest Bales, working with John and Trey Harris, has transformed HD 18 into a sanctuary district, ravishing the environment and allowing criminal elements to settle. And he's transforming the district by moving 75,000, mostly illegal aliens, into this House district with the intent to grow it to 250,000. And he has many people, corrupt politicians, who are supporting him on this endeavor. And it's not to the benefit of the people of HD 18, it's to their detriment. He's been exposed by the Daily Wire. Of course, Wayne Delshafino did great work on that a couple of years ago. So Daily Wire, the New York Post, and Glenn Beck's The Blaze are tackling the issue of Colony Ridge. It's a scandal, and no one made Ernest Bales write and pass. He did it surreptitiously. He secretly introduced and passed HD 18 in local and uncontested affairs, or local and uncontested legislation. So it wasn't brought up to the floor and debated. It was secretly snuck in or stuck in legislation which it didn't belong in to prevent people from knowing and responding to it. Strike 1, the impeachment of Ken Paxton. Strike 2, Colony Ridge. Strike 3 is school choice. Now, according to polls, 80% of the voters here in HD 18 want school choice. This means that the monies, the public funds, delegated or allocated to each student follows the student. And this means that the student can go to the school of the parent's choice, be that the public school, which is going to be the majority of the decision, or homeschool, private schooling, Christian schooling. So it creates exciting new alternatives for parents to improve the quality of their education of their children, and sets up children for success. And a lot of people support that. There are certain issues that people have. Mostly the public schools and the teachers' unions are against it because they look at it as losing fund, even though the legislation actually increases teacher pay and increases funding for public schools. They see it basically as a threat to their power, and they're against it. So we have the issue of school choice, which is a priority of Governor Abbott and Ernest Bales, who's like a minion or a toady of the teachers' unions. He's been the face of opposition to school choice. And now he's paying the consequence of it. So what's happening now is an amazing level of bad publicity, of negative publicity against Ernest Bales. Now, I've campaigned against Ernest Bales for two reasons. Number one, I sincerely believe that he's bad for HD18 and we need change. I believe that he is a liberal. I mean, he's a Democrat in his past, and he's not a real Republican. This is a Republican primary. Republican voters need to vote for Republicans, people who support the Republican Party and will pass Republican legislation. But this area right now, even though Ernest Bales is working to flip Texas blue, this is still for now a red district, and we need to have a representative in the Texas House who represents the beliefs and the political policy priorities of the people who live in this House district. Secondly, honestly, I was threatened by Bales supporters, and I felt like the best way to defend myself against these attacks by these people, and including implied threats of physical harm, was to go on the ballot to stand up and defend myself from these attacks, vicious attacks from the Bales campaign. And if they didn't want me running against them, they shouldn't have threatened me the way they did. So now there's an incredible amount of advertising against Ernest Bales, commercials exposing his record, and mail-outs.
Representative Ernest Bales blocked school choice legislation in Texas. This comes after over 87% of Republicans in his district voted in favor of giving parents the power to choose the best educational path for their children. It's time for a change. On March 5th, let's unite for school choice and stand with parents, not against them. Your vote can make a difference. Step up for the future of our children. Empower parents, empower our future.
Every parent should have the right to choose the best school for their children. But State Rep Ernest Bales disagrees. He did the bidding of radical liberal unions, trying to turn Texas blue by voting to block school choice for Texas families, voting to kill $4,000 teacher pay raises, and denying millions in funding for our local public schools. Ernest Bales sides with liberal unions, not Texas parents.
At this point, I don't see how Ernest Bales can win. He's behind in the polls. This negative publicity through mail-outs and television and online advertisement, when people are watching content, the advertisements pop up or they're seen on TV, they're hitting him relentlessly. And I don't see how we can overcome it. I haven't seen Ernest Bales running a commercial. He is doing some mail-outs, but his mail-outs to me smack of desperation, and he's not on the offense, he's on the defense. And another thing that's very odd is like this debate I did, he didn't even show up, and apparently they offered him 3 dates to work with his schedule, and he refused each date that they presented to him. He doesn't want to take questions, and there is going to be a debate that he's going to be at, but it's going to be hosted by his friend Hank Vatt. So it's going to be a friendly debate. I think this other event that we're doing, they're not going to be asking questions. We just introduce and talk about ourselves. So he's afraid to take questions, and apparently he's afraid to take questions about the impeachment of Ken Paxton. I met Ken Paxton. He seems to be a good person to me. I support what he does. But whatever my feelings are, the fact of the matter is he is popular. He's popular among voters here, and a lot of people are scandalized and offended that Ernest Bales voted to impeach him. So what's going to happen is we're going to have a new Texas state legislator, and it's either going to be me or Janice Holt. It could go into a runoff where no one gets 50% and it goes to a runoff. Right now, Janice Holt has a lot of endorsements and a lot of big money groups supporting her. But what people need to realize, what the voters need to realize, is that I do have friends and contacts in Hardin County. And I've been in that area. I live in San Jacinto County and I pastor in Liberty County. So Liberty and San Jacinto counties are my home. This means I'm uniquely qualified to deal with the situations here in this area, especially Colony Ridge. Colony Ridge is something in my backyard and something that I'm very concerned about and I want to deal with. And something else that people need to realize when they're going to go vote is two issues. Number one, the biggest issue we're facing right now is the border. I worked on the border for 4 years. I know the border and I know what we need to do to secure the border, and I want to secure the border. Number two, I have 30 years of military experience, including 2 combat deployments. And as I mentioned, the 4 years on the border mission. I've been all over the border from Brownsville to El Paso. For me, the border, I'm a subject matter expert on the border. I know it, I've worked it, I've lived there, I know how bad the problem is, I know what we need to do to solve it. I've seen bad legislation that's not effective, and I've seen good policies that help secure our border. So I have a lot to bring to the table, and I have unique qualifications that neither Ernest Bales nor Janice Holt have. What is Ernest Bales? His family works in education. I work in education. He's a rancher. Well, I have a ranch too that I'm trying to run and do agricultural work on it. So he might have more specialization and experience in that, but like I said, I'm bringing my service to the country, 30 years of military service. And I think that's important. I think people should consider that when they go out to vote, that I actually put my life on the line for this country, and I took hostile fire on multiple occasions, putting myself out there, risking my life to keep this nation safe, because I love my country and I love the people here. And as a chaplain, my job as a chaplain is to help people, and it's about caring for people, and that's what everything is all about. As a legislator, you're supposed to be a servant of the community, and that's what I want to be. So you need to be aware that election day is March 5th. Early voting is February 20th to March 1st, so vote early. You have complete flexibility. The polls are open pretty much all day, early voting, and don't just look what happened in Arizona, where the Democrats sabotaged the voting machines in Republican precincts. They ordered wrong size paper. They sabotaged them. So Republican voters came up on election day because they don't like early voting. And what happened? The Democrats had broken all the machines. So and then they wouldn't extend voting. They wouldn't allow these people to vote. So they prevented people from voting on election day in Arizona to keep them from allowing. They didn't want Kerry Lake in office, so they sabotaged the machines. They did the same thing in Harris County. They went to go vote, and the Democrats said they were controlling the voting at the Republican precincts. I'm sorry, we don't have paper for the machines. You can't vote. So if Republican voters voted early, they wouldn't have been able to successfully carry out that stunt. And that's something else I'm concerned about. We can't have questionable actions like that. It looks to me that that was a conspiracy to defraud voters in Arizona. At best, it was gross negligence and incompetence, and they should not have been allowed to prevent those people from voting. It happened, and it looks to me like this was a orchestrated scheme, or they did the exact same thing in Harris County and Arizona. So we have to prevent voter fraud, and that's one of the things I want to do when I'm elected. So please vote. Please tell the people to vote. Let people know this is important. This is a pivotal primary election, and we need change to tackle these issues and problems that, sadly, were created by Ernest Bales. So let's put the word out there, and let's go out and vote for change. Vote for Dr. Missick on early voting, February 20th to March 1st, and on Election Day. Thank you, and God bless you.
country begin the victory.